Money FM 89.3, best of weekends.
My guest now, Emma Hawker, is the CEO and founder of Altify, and they have put together an automated self-service event tech platform that's putting together event organizers and speakers with a view toward creating better live and virtual experiences for them. My pleasure to welcome Emma right now. Emma, how you doing? Happy Sunday.
Hi. Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on. And Emma, you've spent years working to put speakers in programs. You did it with the HR Summit for many years here and very successfully at that. Talk to us about the need to change this experience between speakers and speaker organizers. How are things different now, and how is it being done differently?
Well, obviously very different now. When I think back to just even a year ago, or a year and a half ago, this was not even, the whole being on Zoom all the time was not even on anybody's radar, right? And I remember even just 3 years ago, we did an event and there was a particular speaker who couldn't make it from the US. So we decided to live stream him for our sessions. And at the time, that was, not that many people were doing it. And to us, it seemed very exciting. And that now is just the norm. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a difference in the way that when you are looking to find speakers for events, that different considerations you take now based on a speaker that's going to be virtual rather than perhaps live?
Well, obviously, because the physical element isn't there anymore, let's say that, we still obviously very much want professional speakers who are professionally trained on stages and who can deliver very well, and they have the body language to go along with it. But obviously now that's not as essential anymore. But you still have to try and get your message across in a very engaging way anyway. So even if you're sat down. When we look at speakers now, I guess there's a broader range because we're looking more for the content. We're looking for that engagement through a screen rather than just the engagement on stage. So I guess there's just more choice, I'd say, nowadays.
Yeah, of course. And as you mentioned earlier, we're all spending so much time online doing not only our work meetings, but our webinars, and millions of webinars every week. It seems like people want us to go and watch. So they better offer something special, right, to get our attention in the first place, but then to hold it for an hour or two. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Now, you have started this company called Altify, and it is, you describe it as an event tech platform. Talk to us about that. What does it actually do?
So it's, I think, a bit like an online speaker marketplace where organizers can dip in and find any type of speaker that they're looking for, whether that might be a trainer or a coach or a professional speaker, but also business leaders, industry practitioners. So they can find all of these speakers from all over the world for their virtual and physical events. It's all completely automated. It's all self-service, so there's no middleman. So we're very different from a bureau in that respect. But essentially, you can go in there, find what you're looking for in terms of speakers. And it also has integrated productivity capabilities for organizers to manage that speaker acquisition process as well.
And what fields are covered with the speakers that are on your platform?
So we aim to cover all fields. Obviously, we have more in certain fields than others. Just because, being in the founding team and maybe the people that our network is with is, obviously geared towards certain industries. But, in the long term, we just aim to have all industries on there. So we have a real mix right now, which is quite exciting.
Yeah. Is there a difference between the speakers that are able to perform virtually versus in person? I know there are some in-person events that are now starting to come back in various parts of the world. Is there a difference? Do you delineate between the virtual speakers and the in-person?
Yeah, so when the speakers fill out their profile, there is an option that they can choose different options as to what they're comfortable with in terms of format. So very much so if they say, I'm okay to do all of this virtually as well, then that's just a box they need to tick. But essentially, I find that anyone who is willing to be on a panel, moderate, speak nowadays is pretty comfortable also doing it virtually. So it's not so much of a problem, but the organizers just need to have that conversation with the speakers themselves, because it's very much that self-service format whereby organizers make the contact and then they chat directly with the speaker. So they can ask them, obviously, all of these questions.
Emma Hawker is our guest, the CEO and co-founder of Altify, an automated self-service event tech platform bringing together speakers and event organizers. What kind of feedback are you getting from the event organizers as far as how they're able to connect in a virtual way with a whole bunch of new speakers, different speakers?
For them, being virtual now, it's given them so much more choice, I'd say. And that's the exciting thing. They can literally reach out to speakers who are based in the US, even though their event is possibly in Singapore. And they have this choice. And because all of a sudden these physical barriers are not there. So, it's very exciting. They can get, obviously the time difference is always going to be a problem, which we can't do anything about.
Sure.
But yes, it just gives them that choice. And also it's about finding those hidden gems, those people you didn't know existed who are quite happy to, to be a part of a conference or to take part in a panel or whatnot. So yes, it's very much about finding, having that choice and finding the right match for you as an organizer.
Well, it's giving global choice, additional choice to the organizers. Like you say, someone in Asia can contact somebody in the U.S. and get them on virtually and everything's great. Is that more of a challenge? Is it harder then for speakers in certain regions, for example, in Asia or in the U.S., to then, because now they have to compete basically with the entire world in a way that they didn't have to before?
Yes, but we always believe that we always used to say there's a stage for every speaker and a speaker for every stage. So I feel like there's always an opportunity for someone. And being a global platform, I think there'll always be an organizer out there looking for a speaker like you. So yes, obviously there's possibly more competition, but at the same time, we want to promote that diversity. We want that diversity on there. And, not just in terms of gender, but what we're really trying to do is get diversity, in terms of ethnicity, but also pricing, levels of seniority. And that's why we welcome all types of speakers. So it's very much, that choice.
That being the case, what are the things that would help a speaker to stand out if they are going to come on your platform or other platforms? How do you really make a big splash for people that have got hundreds or maybe thousands of other choices?
Yeah. So there's a speaker profile, which you fill out as a speaker. And on the speaker profile, there's actually a portfolio section, which enables you to upload videos, photos, maybe articles that you've written or books. So I really suggest to fill all that information out as much as possible, because that's very visual, right? And when people are going through platforms, they can only read so much. They want to see some visual out there too. So anything in terms of a video, in terms of photos, stages you've been on with crowds obviously helps. So it's just filling out the profile as much as possible. And then also we've got a reviews and rating system. So being able to go out to your past organizers, past clients and say, hey, just, take a few minutes and fill out, a rating, a review for me. And that really helps with obviously you standing out in the crowd. Yeah.
Emma, as you've been in the event space for 13 or so years, and you've done big events, multi-day events. Now that we are starting to see many of these types of events come online, what is the secret for success, in your opinion, for those event organizers who are trying to put together an engaging 2-day or multi-day event, but not have to have just people sit and watch screens for hours and hours over more than one day? Well, what does the best practice look like now, given the fact that, of course, different industries and conferences have different needs? But is there sort of a general best way to do it at this point in time, if you're going to do it virtually?
That's the golden question.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to have asked it.
As you say, it just depends on your type of audience, on your demographics. But they always say, don't have an event that goes on for too long. So it's about that attention span nowadays. You're competing, you're with other people in that space, you're on screen the whole time. So it's two things really. It's the attention span and it's the engagement. And you want to keep people's attention span long enough, and you want to engage them while they're there, and for them to not go off and start doing emails while they're on the session. Mm-hmm. So it's really about getting that balance with the attention span. 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon in one day is pretty much all you need. And you can try and do as much as you can in that time, but it's really not overburdening people with too many hours of sitting in front of their screens. And also because they're working from home, that gives them the ability to do work in between and not feel guilty about taking a couple hours time out to attend an event. And and I've seen events, they're now doing it over several days. So they'll have a 5-day event, but it'll only be maybe 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon each day. And that would have normally, at the time, probably been a full 2 to 3 day event. Right. So, that transition to having less hours in front of the screen is a good thing. Then the engagement itself, and that's the golden question. Everyone's trying to engage as much as possible on Zoom and whatnot. So there's a lot of features and chat rooms you can put people in to have those networking opportunities. So it's really about taking advantage of all of those engagement tools that are out there or that are on the platforms already integrated already, and then finding the right speakers to keep their attention, which is where we come in.
Indeed. Speaking with Emma Hawker, CEO and co-founder of Altify. When you talk to the conference organizers, Emma, how long do you suggest speakers speak for? Has that number changed in the virtual world versus the in-person conferences?
Yes, it's much less now. So, previously, even at events, we used to do the whole, power talks or, that would last about 20 minutes. And those were great because the 20 minutes in person really keeps your attention span. It's just long enough to get enough information, and but it's short enough to not take up, too much of your time and for you to get disengaged. So yeah, it's really about having people speak for less time nowadays. Yeah, of course. A session that you would do in an hour you can do a 15-minute to try and get all the essentials out. Yeah,
of course. TED Talks are famous for that one segment they have where people do 3-minute talks, right? And they've got to get their point across in 3 minutes.
I know people are trying to get,
which is quite interesting.
I think that's exciting. Yes, it keeps you on your feet and you're watching the whole time because also that there's that time limit for the speaker. So it's quite exciting to see how much they're going to get across in how little time.
Yeah, you have so much knowledge about this topic. I hope you don't mind me just kind of picking your brain because
that's fine.
I think it's really interesting the way that things are changing and have to change in this reality that we're in now. When you think about bringing the physical into the digital, many conferences are now playing around with sending a lunch to people or sending swag bags or goodie baskets or whatever as part of the conference experience, so that as people are watching speaker A, they take his or her whatever it is out of the basket and use it. Whatever is that a way to go forward? Is that a wave of the future?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think it adds to the engagement because that's the thing. It's the human connection that we're missing, right? So it's just giving them that connection, but by another means. So, and it just adds to your session. It keeps you engaged. So that's a very good idea. But physical events are returning. So that might not be so much of a need in the future, unless you're going to keep your event fully virtual. That is something that might not necessarily be needed, or unless you have obviously the budget to do that as well as your physical event. But very soon we're going to see hybrid events, starting up, and that'll be interesting. So we'll have both sides. We'll have the physical and the virtual, and organizers will be a bit relieved to think at least they can spend a lot more energy on focusing on the physical. Then the virtual will be an aside for those who can't make it. Etc. But I think we've learned a lot in this challenging time, and obviously great ideas like what you just mentioned have come out, and we've all learned from these experiences. So we've it's a better way to go forward.
Yeah, I was over at Marina Bay Sands a few weeks ago, and they were doing a demo for for a small group of folks. They have now a new virtual studio there where they can have up to 50 people in the audience. Now that number might change depending on what the government says. And then they have a big virtual stage where they can actually either bring in, the Zoom feed, if that's what it is, a video feed, or they can actually have people show up in hologram from another location. They're calling it the sort of mixed or hybrid type conferences where the people in the room would pay more but get a different experience, obviously, because and then have networking events or dinners with that select group versus the hundreds of others that might join virtually. That kind of a model, does that seem to make sense to you? Is that something that would be interesting to conference goers, participants, organizers? Yes. I mean, it's a different experience. We left before COVID. We never even, didn't even exist. And now we've got all of these options. They're coming back into the room and everything's set up, like that. So yes, I think that will be very exciting. It's also very costly. It can be very costly. And as you say, like the attendee might have to then end up paying more depending on the experience. Right. So it'll really come down to, budgets and how much you're willing to spend to be at an event, because even though you're paying more to be there, are you getting what you need out of it? Because at the end of the day, it's about the content and it's about what you remember from your experience. It's about what you've learned. So, and obviously, if the experience can deliver that as well, and you remember all of this when you're leaving as an attendee, then great. But otherwise, if you walk away from an event, which has happened, I'm sure, to many people in the past, and you think, it was great to be there, but I don't remember that, like nothing really stuck with me. That just says it all. It just says, you spent hours of your life in this room. You didn't remember that much. So, coming back to what you mentioned before, it just depends whether that experience is going to add, to your experience as you leave. And, will you want more, or will you just think, okay, that was great as a one-off? We're talking with Emma Hawker, CEO, co-founder of Altify, an automated self-service event platform bringing speakers and event organizers together. And I just want to mention one of our Facebook Live viewers, Trisha Craig, has reached out to say, you are a really interesting speaker. And I totally agree with her on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Emma, as we close off the segment here, what are the maybe 3 or 4 key lessons that event organizers and speakers will have learned when 2020 is over and done with? What will we have learned this year?
Oh, wow. Well, obviously, we're all learning about the services such as Zoom. Everybody's learned how to engage through those services now. So that's very interesting and exciting. And we learned how to network in this kind of new virtual world, as much as one can, at least. And for organizers, I mean, this has obviously been thrust upon them pretty brutally. The events industry was going towards being more digital already, but this has literally just accelerated everything. So now it's just been organizers having to embrace that new world, the new world of events, the new way of doing things. And, they've learned a lot through it, because I've spoken to a fair few in the past and they were just finding their feet. They're trying to find new ways to engage. So, I think we've learned a lot through the experience, organizers and audience members too. And obviously audience members have had, luckily for them, the opportunity to attend way more events and sometimes pay way less than they would have otherwise. So yes, it's a very interesting time, and I think we're going to see more interesting times, in the future, because now I guess hybrid is going to be the exciting new beast we're all going to experience moving forward.
Indeed. Yeah. Emma, thank you so much for your time. Emma Hawker, CEO, co-founder of Altify. Really happy to have you with us today. Thanks for telling us of this new world that we're in and how people are making the most of it when it comes to their conferences and their speakers.
Yeah, thank you so much.